back with another episode of Gold Rushes of Australia. This week I want to take a closer look at where the real money was made in the last half of the 19th century when it came to the goldfields, and that is the share trading exchanges that sprung up in places like Bendigo, Ballarat, Melbourne, and further north later in Charters Towers, and of course in Western Australia once the gold rush kicked off over there. As the search for gold went deeper, companies were formed and capital was needed to get them off the ground. And this caused a surge of investors, including in Melbourne in 1859, where prices went through the roof as every man and his dog rushed to invest in the next big thing. Unfortunately, the same year the bubble burst and many investors ended up with a piece of paper not worth the ink it was printed with. Nonetheless, investing in gold mines continued into the 1860s, using a call system which, in its form in those earlier days, could really leave you on the hook should that company underperform or fail. You could buy shares. The call system was about buying shares with an upfront payment on the full value. For instance, you buy a share for £10, but the initial upfront instalment or payment is only £2. But you own that share, but you are on the hook for £8 more. And so the company can request further calls or further instalments at any time up to that £10. This meant investors with not enough money to perhaps pay for the full share were still investing in the hopes that the mine that they were investing in would strike it rich or strike a rich reef early, therefore it not needing any more money, not requiring its investors to pay any more instalments. Obviously a very risky game, and this caused the burst in 1859 when companies were requesting money from investors they didn't have. In the early days, not only was the investor legally liable for the full amount of share that they had purchased, they were also legally liable for any debts the company would incur. So that meant that somebody could invest £100, a fortune, or a lot of money back in the day, and end up owing £500, a fortune, after they had incurred their share of the company's debt. If you didn't want to pay it, well, in would come the debt collectors. Weren't happy with that, you could be looking at a jail term. After 1871, the rules changed. The Victorian colony introduced the No Liability Company Act, which meant from now on you could buy a share still using a call, so you could buy a share for £10, only pay £2, but you were no longer legally required to keep paying calls up to the full amount. You could simply not pay it, but you would forfeit your share. As a result of these changes, share trading in gold mining was invigorating, and massive amounts of capital were invested into the thousands of companies registering, all claiming to be the next sure thing. By November 1871, 1,300 mining companies had been registered at the Sandhurst Bendigo Mining Exchange. They'd raised a massive £10 million in capital, which is nearly the value of all the gold found on Bendigo in the first 10 years. Investing in gold mining shares wasn't just the pastime of wealthy gentlemen. Everybody from the town mayor through to the milkmaid were investing in these companies, and talk of share prices and the next best thing dominated conversations in the pubs and anywhere that people congregated. It was a time when new mining companies with compelling stories were appearing daily in the newspapers, a source of hope for the investors who were betting on that fortune if they could just back the right horse. That's all the time I've got for you on Gold Rushes of Australia tonight. I'll be back with more on next week's Miners Den show. I'll see you then.